Our next guest settling in right now, Kim Strong from Laney's Army. Kim, how are you?
Good. Good morning, everybody.
Morning. Some pit bulls in Norwich.
Yeah.
Big story that Beth has been covering all morning on the show.
Yeah, we've been talking about this as part of the news all morning long. You guys just picked up, there were 7 pit bulls that were involved in an abuse case. They were part of a dog fighting ring. You and some volunteers got 6 of the dogs, brought them to Rome where they're being cared for and treated. But the 7th dog was returned to the owner. So can you give us a little bit of the background on the case? I already have a text question about how that dog could possibly be returned, and I know that there is a logical reason for it, but maybe you can kind of explain a little bit about where you are with these dogs.
All right. Well, this case started in January. The dogs have been at 2 different vets down in Norwich. They were emaciated. They were sores on their skins. They were really in pretty rough shape. 6 of them were. The 7th dog, or the one of the dog that was actually returned, was the only dog that was not emaciated. It's a breeding dog because he is a breeder. He had a kennel down there. So that was the only dog that wasn't emaciated. So this has been going through the initial court processes, and his lawyer had filed a petition to get the dogs back last week. The judge he returned the 1 dog to him. In doing so, the man agreed to sign over the other 6. In a court case, what happens is these dogs would be custody of Norwich for the entire year or so that it would take to go through this court process. I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing the reason that he gave the dog back because that dog was not emaciated. It was the only dog that wasn't, and he released the other 6. So now these dogs are not tied. The other 6 are not tied up in a court case for a year because the town of Norwich would have been responsible for all of those bills. And it's very lengthy and it's very time-consuming. So I think it's horrific that they sacrificed the 1 dog to get the other 6 and didn't let the law do its job. You know, that's the problem, and that's the problem we're having. The judge, that's why we have a petition up. The judge needs to make this right. He sacrificed this dog. The way these dogs were living was horrific. We're talking, they were living in metal or wood boxes and barrels, no food, no water. They're still extremely thin, 5-10 pounds underweight, which is a lot for a small dog. Right. And they've been at the vets for 2 months.
Wow. So now what happens next as far as this case is concerned against this gentleman?
The DA has brought the charges up. He's going under animal cruelty, not aggravated animal cruelty. So it's 6 misdemeanors. And that case is proceeding just like it always did. Because he surrendered the dogs. They're out. The 6 we have are out of it. The 7th one has been given back to him by the court. So technically, legally, that's his dog, and there's nothing anybody can say about it. So we're petitioning the judge that he needs to get updates on this dog. And the precedent, you don't take away 7 dogs and give 1 back to a man that's been charged with cruelty. You don't do that. And give it back to him before the trial's over. Because if he's guilty, you just gave a dog back to an animal abuser.
Does it come with some type of extra scrutiny for the safety and welfare of that dog, the one that was returned to him?
No. No, it doesn't. So he got his dog back, and now that dog's at his mercy again.
Is that the only dog that he has?
That's the only dog that was on that property. There are other dogs on his breeding website that he has, but we don't know where. Because he has an address supposedly in Johnson City, an address supposedly in New York City. So, you know, these people are really good at hiding dogs. He was down at Tractor Supply when we were down there showing the community the dogs. He was down there watching us.
How far is your field of influence and interest, Kim? You mentioned Johnson City, the Binghamton area, New York City. How far do you go across New York State?
Well, we actually go across the nation. We have members in all of New York State. I've recently started training dogs out of New York City and Long Island. So my reach has significantly increased with the dogs coming out of New York City because each one of these dogs has their own followers. So I've added pretty close to 3,000 people down in New York City and Long Island that are going to help.
Kim, you've been involved in many different efforts of helping rescuing dogs. Is there a common theme that you see here such as the situation you're just describing? Is there a common theme with the owners or even the situation with the dogs, the setting, the scene that you find?
It's always usually filthy. It's always covered in garbage. The dogs are always very, very thin, and it's always a matter of the people, the neighbors have seen it for a long time. And I tell people wonder why Oneida County has such high reporting of animal cruelty rates. It's not that we have more animal cruelty. It's that if we see something, we say something in this county because of all the different advocacy efforts of all the different groups in the area, and we have great shelters. In other communities where these things get called in, they get reported and nothing happens, I call it a planned helplessness. The community learns, if you see something, don't bother saying something because nothing's going to be done. And there hasn't been a lot of voice for animals in different Shenango, Broome counties. And I've been working in cruelty cases down there, and I'm getting the same walls that we used to get in Oneida County. So now where our focus is getting, we divided up into state police barracks, Troop C, which is down there, with my group. We're getting out there and saying, if you see something, say something, but then call me.
Is there an easy way for folks to report that? What's the best way? Do they call their local police department?
No, they call me.
Okay.
Because there's an accountability factor when we do it. We're always within the law, but it's phone call, phone call, phone call. And it's staying on law enforcement and making sure that somebody doesn't go out and go, oh, the dog looks fine, and walk away.
Kim, a couple of interesting stories that Beth and I were looking at with regard to dogs, aside from the story that you're covering here. With a coffee shop, I think, Beth, that we noticed over the weekend that was using dogs. And then another story where I think, and this might have originated from New York City, I'm not sure, but where they were pairing dogs to rent for a while, I think, if you wanted to rent a dog for a while. Remember those
that
stories?
was Jay's story.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, and maybe you can get your take on this. There was a company that was started called Bark and Borrow, I believe it was.
Yes.
And I don't know your thoughts on that. And
I read about it. He got in a little bit of trouble for euthanizing a dog that people had liked, and all of a sudden the dog had behavior problems they couldn't handle. The concept is good.
The idea was,
but it's a money making concept.
Right. If you couldn't own a dog, or
you rent a dog.
Yeah, you don't feel like you have the time. You're able to go to this company and rent a dog for a day, take it for a walk, take it out to the park. So I found that a little odd.
Well, like we do Forever Fosters, people who can't afford a dog, and we have, say, an elderly dog or a sick dog, they foster the dog, and then we pay all the bills. So we do Forever Fosters with some seniors. There's a Rescue Me does a senior program where the dog is really the rescues, and that's a little bit different.
Oh, sure.
You'll find whenever somebody's making money off an animal, there's abuse. Somewhere along the line, somebody's going to be getting abused if you're making money off them. There's abuse in the horse racing industry. There's abuse in dog shows. It's just there's abuse straight across the board. But when there's money involved, there's motivation for abuse.
Right.
The other story that we were reading was what I thought was a very sweet idea is a coffee shop. They have, it's just like a regular coffee shop, except that they have dogs that they're trying to help find homes, and they're there so that the patrons can hang out with them and play with them, and they've been able to use that to help find some of those dogs permanent homes, because people come in and they'll interact with the dogs, and they're saying it's good for the dogs to help be socialized, and it helps many of them find their forever homes, which I thought was really sweet.
That's amazing. And New York really it's kind of funny. If you go to New England, there are water bowls outside a lot of the businesses in the tourist towns. If you go outside of, New York State, if you go in the South and places, there's water bowls. People take their dogs in. There's places, even in like Old Forge, you go in, there's a dog in almost every business up there. It's really up to the community whether they're a dog-friendly community or not. But in Europe, everybody takes their dogs everywhere. And everybody's dogs are much better behaved. When you can get them out and it's part of your lifestyle, their dogs learn more. So in our area, the reason we have so many ill-behaved dogs is because they don't get out. So I think that's a phenomenal idea. And New York just passed a bill last year to allow outside seating for dogs at restaurants.
Yeah.
So, I think getting the dogs out in the community and getting them into, places is a great thing for everybody.
I agree.
I know my dogs would support that.
We're going to be hopefully doing some events soon that have people bring their dogs out and have dinner with your dog.
And is there any pending legislation going on right now that's important to you guys in the work that you do?
Well, there's a bunch of them coming down the pike. The biggest one is the Consolidated Animal Crimes Bill. We'll remove these laws into the Penal Code, which I've been talking about with you guys forever.
Right.
We're going to Albany this year on April 12th. If I can give the number that people can call.
Sure.
It's called 525-7469. It's Geraldine Spencer. You can call her. Again, 525-7469.
And I'll put that on our Facebook page and on our website.
And they can people can go with us to Albany and fight for legislation on April 12th.
Great. Keep us up to date on all that stuff. Kim, thanks for the time.
Thanks guys.